The skeptic's dilemma. And the dilemma is, how do you find a balance between critical thinking and open-mindedness? And can skeptics be psychics? So those are the things that I'm going to be addressing today for those of you who may be skeptics, or for those of you who may happen to love someone who is highly skeptical about most things. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is Nancy. If you are just new to my channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button because you are going to love everything that I have to say about skeptics. You skeptics are going to love it. Maybe, maybe not. But subscribing to my channel so I can share with you all that I have learned about the human energy field and what influences us from the inside out and the outside in, those frequencies that can turn us upside down or turn us right side up. So let's go ahead, and I've wanted to talk about skeptics for a long time. And the reason why is because my view on skeptics can be very different than the average person. Now, part of it is because I'm a psychic. I can see the human energy field. I can see in multidimensional realms. I can see with my eyes open some of the craziest things that have ever existed on the planet that just does not make any sense to the logical mind. And yet I have what I call healthy skepticism that helps me to take a step back and say, am what I'm seeing real? And what I see, does it exist? Has anybody ever talked about this before? What's my sense about this? So it helps me kind of shift into that different lane where it's like, I might just need to take this exit here to sit here for a minute and really go a little deeper into what I sense and know intuitively and as a human through my experiences. I need to put those things through those kind of cautionary filters so that I don't drink the Kool-Aid, if you know what I mean. So that I don't just take anything that anyone says hook, line, and sinker beyond what might be rational and reasonable. So when I talk about that dilemma with skeptics, it's like that super critical, that is not possible, you are crazy, you've gone off the deep end, I'm afraid that you're losing it. That's that critical where you can't be open-minded enough to maybe sit and just listen to the perspective. It's like, I might need to take that exit for a little bit and sit with this for a while, but I'm definitely open-minded enough to listen to the experiences that you are having. And, I remember once sharing some of my frustrations because I can see so many dimensions. I can see so many things going on. I don't talk about a lot of it. And a lot of it's going to get washed out in the wash. A lot of it is never going to come to manifestation at the human level. It's just some passing by dragon, by the way, which I have a really cool story about that I'll share with you all sometime. But with the skepticism, that skeptical persons might say, well, let me sit with this for a while. So I remember saying, I never really get a chance. I don't have an outlet. I really wish I could have an outlet to share these experiences that I have. And I remember my friends saying, well, you can share anything that you want with me. And I said, really? Really? Would you be open to that? Is that cool with you? Because I'd like to just kind of talk this out a little bit. And I got about 5 minutes into it, and I remember them saying, okay, cut. That's enough. I think I want to live in my own little naive world thinking that this kind of stuff doesn't exist. And that's fair. And this is what I've noticed a lot about skepticisms is it's not from a kind of a healthy place of putting it, kind of going through a process or having an experience or doing some research about it. It's more from that space of they're terrified. And this is why I'm talking about skeptics today, because it's a lot more about fear than it is about not really believing in any of this stuff. So how does that skeptic really strike a balance between the two? So yeah, let me just kind of talk about that a little bit more. So as a psychic reader, I remember in the beginning, I was so enthusiastic about this work. I could see in the energy field, I knew it was going to make everybody's life better. And that I have not wavered on that. I know that if everybody in the world developed their intuition and their psychic ability, that life would just be better all the way around. And I'm not changing on that. I'm unwavering on that. But so in the beginning, it was just, I wanted to read everybody. I wanted to read believers. I wanted to read skeptics. Anybody. I wanted them to have an experience of really understanding their own human energy field and what's going on. Because when I would do a reading for someone and I could see where a skeptic might have a block in their energy field and help shift that, and then they felt a lot better. They felt more open-minded. They felt less critical, and they didn't know what happened or why it happened, and they didn't even need to know what was happening. They just liked knowing that they felt better. All right, so in the beginning, I used to, husbands will bring in their wives, wives will bring in their husbands, because if your spouse is watching you grow and expand, but they don't understand what's going on and they're starting to get uncomfortable and they're starting to get a little fearful, they can be critical, they can be really shut down, and they're shutting down. They want you to shut down because it's stirring the pot too much. So a lot of times people will bring in their spouse, because if their spouse can understand it better, they will maybe be a little bit more flexible in their relationship ideas. Now, and for the most part, that does happen, where they can say, oh, I see what you're doing. It's nothing kind of out there. It's just kind of getting a sense about what's got you off balance so you can come back into balance again. So But there were those where they were really, really intense skeptics, where they were so skeptic, they came in with attitude. It's like, no, I'm not going to tell you my name. I gave you a false name so that you don't look up on the internet and get all the details about me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I so don't have time to do that. But it's like, I would tell them something and they'd have this really stiff face so that I couldn't read any expression. And then I would just go to the next level and the next level and the next level. And it's just like, I'm like, are you doing okay? I'm not saying anything because I know you're just reading my face. You're reading my body language. So they'll come in really, really stiff. And I just think, I'm so sorry, because you could be having a really good time right now. All right, so then I got to a point where I just said, no more. I'm not here to convince your husband. I'm not here to convince your wife. It is too hard to read a hardcore skeptic. All right, so what do I mean by a hardcore skeptic? Have you ever seen one of those old-fashioned bank vaults? Or it could be a gun locker, I suppose. It's a big metal rectangular box that's got a dial on it. It's got a big old lock on it. And when you open it, it's got thick metal walls all the way around. And that skeptic's going to be inside of there. That door's closed. And I, as a psychic, need to know the exact combination to open that door before you're going to believe anything. So what is that big metal bank vault or gun locker? what is that? Mental energy. And it's some hardcore mental energy. So when you, as that skeptic or someone you loved as a skeptic, they're going to come in and right away, all I can see is this moving bank vault. It's like they're coming in and it's just like, yeah, you know, no, I don't believe in any of this stuff. They come and sit down. And it's like, I can provide information because I can see through the vault. You can't stop me as I see through the vault. However, the skeptic can't get the information because it's like my information is bouncing off the mental walls and bouncing back. So they can't get that information. And so they will stay and remain. And it's hard. I mean, I feel like I'm swimming through concrete because the whole auric field is so solidly blocked and resistant. So it's hard. I feel like I'm sweating, like I've got sweat coming down my cheeks because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is hard work, because as I read, I'm trying to keep my frequency light-hearted, light-minded, while I'm taking a sledgehammer trying to open up this really stiff skeptic's box of metal mental energy. So then I have some really, that's not really my cup of tea. Sure, I remember this guy came in and he goes, my wife, she's just so excited about you and she just loves you so much and she just thinks you're just so cool and she just wants me to have a cool experience too. But I'm telling you, I don't know what I think about this, or I don't know that I believe in it. Now I can work with that, right? We've all been there. I was the same way when I had a reading. I didn't have a reading for 6 months after I knew that I could have a reading because I didn't believe in them. And I remember telling the psychic, I'm not going to ever have a reading with you because I don't believe in psychics. All right, hello. And now look what I'm doing full time, which is the point of my video. All right. So when I have someone come in saying, hey, I don't know that I'm into this stuff, but I'm willing to come once, make my wife happy. And I remember when I read him, he was very quiet, very stoic, although very kind-hearted. And after we got all done, I said, all right, now I've read you. Is there any reflection? Is there anything that you want to talk about? And he said, ma'am, this session is the best thing I have ever missed a golf game for. And I had to laugh because that was like the highest compliment, because normally he'd be out golfing right now and he really loved the reading. Did he ever come back again? No. Did he need to come back again? No. But he loved his wife enough to have the experience. He loved the experience. He had a better idea of why she loves the experience, but he didn't need to come back. And he was open-minded enough to just let the energy flow. He wasn't blocking the energy. He was letting the energy flow. So there's a certain gauge that I look at. I call it a programability gauge. And so while you're listening to me, I want you to really get a sense of what your programability gauge says about you. So from 0 to 100%, if you were to just kind of close your eyes and turn within right now, how programmable do you think you are? Are you 0% programmable, like nobody can convince you of anything that you don't want to be convinced about? Or are you 100% open to all spiritual information, and that, if a spiritual teacher says something, or if the minister says something, or someone of authority that you highly respect says something, do you take it as gospel truth? Or are you somewhere in the middle? So from 0 to 100%, where do you fit on that scale? And go ahead and put it in the comment section. So we've learned a lot in these past few years about in our politics that the more confident someone can make you believe that they are, even if they're telling a big fat lie, and that can be on either side of the fence of politicians, we will tend to, or what I've noticed in the past few years, we will tend to believe them if they present very confident. And it's the same with spiritual teachers. It's the same with teachers. It's the same with athletic coaches. It doesn't matter if they come across as more confident and you're insecure, you're going to believe them over you. So from 0 to 100%, how open are you to spiritual information, psychic, intuitive information? From 0 to 100%. Okay, now I look at a programability gauge for you before I start the reading. So I will ask Spirit, how programmable is this person? So if they come in and your Spirit says, this individual is 98% programmable, then I will make sure to be a little more cautious in what I share. I'll kind of minimize what I share. And why do I do this? Well, I do this because you're kind of not skeptical enough. You don't question enough. And what that means is that you may believe everything that comes through from Spirit or that I say as gospel truth, and you will override your own intuitive senses. And that is not what I want. So I will give you general information, but I won't go into depth with more detail. All right? Now, if you're a skeptic, way at the other end, and it's like, no matter what, I've got that big bank vault around me of mental energy, I am zero open to spiritual information. I'm not even 5% open to spiritual information. So if you were like 20% or less open to spiritual information, then I might not even do the reading, because what I know is you're going to block the spiritual, energetic energy at every turn. So I usually like to see that you're somewhere in the middle. When I'm doing a reading for you, I want you to be a little bit skeptical. I want you to be more discerning. I want you to say, this piece didn't make sense for me. I'm going to sit with this, or I don't agree with this. Like I want you to have your own mind about things. And so regardless of what you think about skeptics telling you the future and telling you what to do and all that stuff, in my programs, we teach our psychics to be healthier and discerning and being caring for the person sitting in front, to not feed too much information if they don't have that discernment, and how if someone is super, super skeptical, that it might just be too hard for my energy field to even try. All right. Are men more skeptical than women? No. Especially if the husband is involved in spiritual things and the wife, or the girlfriend, or, thinks that they're losing their husband to spiritual development and they get jealous, they can really throw a wrench in the works, and it happens on the flip side as well. But let me talk about, can skeptics be psychics? So I don't know how to break it to you, but based on my experience, all skeptics are incredible psychics. And they're skeptical because they're kind of that lockdown skepticism. I'm going to define the two. So a lockdown skeptic is like, arms crossed, you are not getting past this mind of mine, there's a lot of fear there. There's a lot of terror there. There can be maybe as a child that you didn't trust anybody. You didn't know how to trust anybody and anybody else's information, and you knew that you needed to be the provider of your own information, and that maybe you have been led, to believe one thing and you were taken advantage of. So that mental energy is blended in that recipe with a lot of fear. So what I have found is when a skeptic comes in and we start to dismantle some of that fear, underneath they have an incredibly, you as a skeptic have an incredibly bright aura. Your psychic ability, your healing ability is off the charts. So then why would you be so skeptical and so afraid? Well, you can have past lives where you may have been tortured because you were gifted. You may have been burned at the stake because you were gifted. You may have been ostracized and kicked out of the church because you had abilities. There can be a lot of reasons. Or you can be raised in a family that just says that stuff shouldn't even be considered. Like, you can get strong reactions from the parents, and so you carry that into adulthood. But a lot of the, I'll call them healthy skeptics, but even unhealthy skeptics, you've got this really bright light inside. It's just wrapped up in a lot of fear. And so once that fear starts to be dismantled, and once you start to meditate and have your own experience, don't let me tell you, then you find it's like, wow, your psychic ability gets accelerated very, very quickly. So I've talked about if you are too open and you're not open, and I like to read. I feel like I can be myself and just tell you whatever's coming through if you're somewhere in the middle. So I'll just kind of finish up with this last little bit. So when I was going through COVID, I had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and I was trying to find some way to, something really out there to get my mind in a different direction, and I found Ancient Aliens. So I have this whole story about, I was shocked to find out they had 18 seasons because I'd never heard of it before. And I turned out loving it because I love ancient archaeology and megalithic sites and ancient sites. So they talk a lot about that. But I would say, when they would say it came from an alien spaceship, then I would say, okay, that's taken a little bit too far. So see, I could be open-minded about, but there would be certain segments where my little skepticism radar would go off. And I'm like, yeah, I need to rethink that. Well, I ended up watching all 8 seasons, and I will tell you that I was influenced by some of the things that I was listening to. So my mother and I, once COVID was over and once I had healed and from breast cancer, and so we took our first trip and we went to Phenomicon in Utah, the Skinwalker Ranch, Blind Frog Ranch, and what's the other show? Expedition Bigfoot. Like, they had all these speakers. And my mother and I really thought we were going to walk in and see a lot of people in aluminum hats. I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit, but I'm not totally exaggerating. So I really expected. I didn't expect to see normal people like you and me. I didn't expect that. But this is the thing. I'm going this year. It's my 3rd year going, and I love it. These open-minded people are like the coolest people on the face of the planet, and they're not saying that they're believing it all hook, line, and sinker. They want to study it. They want to do science. They want to see if they can get more information. All right. They all are skeptical of psychics. I'm like, what the heck? You believe in little green men, or you believe in a big furry monster, or you believe in, ancient superpowers of the Mayans and skinwalkers and dog people, or, the paranormal, but you don't believe in psychics? You think psychics are flaky? So the reason why I tell that story is because, oh my gosh, we all have our stuff, right? We all have our stuff. And we all have those levels where we are finding that balancing act between severe critical skepticism and gentle, discerning, open-mindedness. So we all have our, our blind spots. So I just invite you to write down some of the things that you're skeptical about, some of the things that maybe you want to invite yourself to be a little bit more open-minded, and maybe just do some research on it. And if you really want to have a lot of fun, then you can come in September to Phenomicon in Vernal, Utah, and hang out. So anyway, I hope you learned a lot of new things about skepticism, and as much as I loved making this video about it. So do you have someone who's really, are you skeptical? Do you know someone who's skeptical? How did you work through your own skepticism, or how do you live with someone who's extremely skeptical? Share your stories, because a lot of people like to hear more from you than from me. So, all right, everyone, take good care. Don't forget to sign up for my Intuitive Questionnaire to know what your own intuitive style is. Even you skeptics out there should take that questionnaire. Just go to intuitivemind.org, click on the Intuitive Style Questionnaire, and it will be sent right to your email. All right, take care, everyone. See you on the next video.